Well, for more on this, I spoke to Mahdi Ghodsi, economist at the Vienna Institute for International Economic Studies and a specialist on the Iranian economy. And I started by asking how the protests ballooned from the gas price hike issue to what we're seeing now.
The recent petrol price hike was just a trigger. We observed a similar social unrest 2 years ago. We experienced a similar event 10 years ago with the Green Movement. In the past few years, Iran experienced crippling sanctions by the United States, and the Iranian macroeconomic conditions went worse. Actually, Iran, in the past 4 decades, since 1976, Iran has never reached back its GDP per capita, its real GDP per capita. It means that the income of every person in Iran has reduced since 1976, and it didn't get back to it. And in addition to that, there's a huge inflation rate in Iran. Last year, we see that with the US withdrawal from the nuclear deal, after that, we saw that the inflation rate in Iran erupted from 10% to 45%. This means that those people who are earning constant salaries, they are right now consuming less, they have less real income. On top of the macroeconomic conditions, we see that in 2019, according to the estimates by the International Monetary Fund, the total Iranian income, GDP of gross domestic product of Iran has shrunk for more than 9.5%.
Right.
This means that many people got jobless, and this means that many people observed this thing and felt this thing in their lives.
And Mahdi, I do want to get to the unemployment rate, because Iran's unemployment rate has been above 10% for at least the last decade, and around double that when it comes to youth unemployment. Give us some context as to what's happening with the labor markets there.
If you check the demographic situation in Iran, you would see that in 1980s, there was a slogan by the supreme leader of Iran at that time to give birth and reproduce. And then the population grew fast at that time. And then about 10, 15, 20 years ago, those people who were born in 1980s, they wanted to find jobs. But instead of finding jobs, because they couldn't find jobs, the economic situation was not good even that time, they opted for educating themselves. They opted for going to universities. But after that, 10 years ago, when they finished their universities, when they finished their higher education, they wanted to find jobs. There was not good economic conditions in Iran. Still, there is no good economic condition in Iran. So those people who wanted to find jobs, they somehow got frustrated, and they simply got out of the labor force. They got out of the supply of work in Iran. So whatever we observe right now is just 12% unemployment rate. But this 12% unemployment rate is out of the labor force. And labor force is much lower because people cannot find job, and then they suddenly get out of the labor force.
Some analysts are saying that Iran could be on the brink of economic collapse. Do you agree with that assessment, or how do you see Iran's outlook?
Well, a few months ago, I wouldn't agree with that, because I was seeing that this 9.5% recession in Iran is going away because the year is going to finish. But I was wrong. I didn't see the social unrest that would happen. I didn't expect a social unrest to happen. But the government itself made a mistake to announce a price hike of petroleum exactly at these moments to boost its own budget. It's difficult to say that Iran is not in the economic collapse, or is far from, or whatever it is. But whatever the people are feeling, they're jobless. They don't have money to buy bread. And when people do not buy bread, when people cannot afford buying bread, they go on the streets, and there becomes a social unrest. And then it may at the end become very brutal. It might lead to violence. Whatever we observed in the past 2 or 3 weeks, it shows that. It shows that Iran is close to economic collapse.
All right.
Actually, what I have to say is the highest recession, 9.5%, was experienced in the time of Iran-Iraq war in 1980s. And this happens again right now without any war. Iran is saying that it is under economic war, and it is not accepting that it is its economy is collapsing. But what we ever observe in the social unrest, we see that the poor is coming on the street.